engineering, where did you work?
I think I was very lucky because as I was finishing my engineering, I got 3 jobs out of campus. One with Indian Air Force, then a job with Larsen and Toubro, and a job with Hindustan. At that time, HCL was there. HCL. I selected Indian Air Force, and I went to Indian Air Force for a very short period. But then you are forced to sign an 18 years bond.
Okay.
Because they spend a lot of time training you, and it is not fair for people to get all the training and spend crores and crores of rupees of the government and then you leave. So I think it's a very legitimate requirement for you to sign an 18 years bond if you go to Indian Air Force, but I was not comfortable. So I left Indian Air Force after a very short time, and then I joined Larsen and Toubro. And I was very much insisting to join their control and automation division because of it is logical controlling of manufacturing plants. So I went into Larsen and Toubro, and there I used to enjoy automating chocolate plants, and we used to get all this export quality chocolates manufactured. You will not get in retail in India, but these are export chocolates, and we used to automate the whole plant to manufacture that. 3 to 4 years into Larsen and Toubro, I noticed that some people with MBA who have no clue about my job coming up with strategies for Larsen and Toubro. So I said, wow, let me switch roles, right? And then I decided to do an MBA, and then I went to Melbourne Business School and then joined Arthur D. Little as a consultant and been there for the last 20 to 23 years now.
How many years did you spend in Melbourne?
2 years.
2 years.
It's just exactly the 2 years.
KURUVILA, apart from studies in Melbourne, what else did you do? I mean, I'm sure you had some extra time.
Yes, I did not have extra time, but even though I went to Melbourne to study for a job, I think the best jobs I had was my part-time jobs while I was a student in Melbourne Business School.
Okay.
I did around 5 to 6 different jobs, starting with cutting grass, cleaning plates in restaurants, helping some students in their exams and teaching them, being at the cash counter of some shops, a petrol station, pumping petrol. I did so many jobs. At that time in Australia, per hour it was around 14 Australian dollars, which is around 700 rupees per hour. So if you work for 4 hours a day, you get 2,800 rupees, which was higher than my monthly salary in Larsen and Toubro, right? So I made my income that is funding my studies from Larsen and Toubro, and I'm recovering every 4 hours a monthly salary from Melbourne Business by the part-time job. But the learnings during that time was really amazing, right? You are doing the job for money, but then I started realizing that you can actually learn a lot from all those jobs. You are not trying to do it for money. You become very passionate about the job. For example, when I was cleaning plates in the hotel, I rearranged the way we collect the plates and bring it to the washing place, and we saved a lot of time, right? And they gave me extra $5,000 for redesigning the layout of the hotel, for example, right? Then at the petrol station, I was fired, right? In Australia, the concept is the petrol station is more like a mini destination. People come in with very interesting cars, Lamborghinis and Ferraris and Porsche cars. They come and give it to you. So you collect the car from them. They will tell you what is required. Check the tire pressure or fill or clean it. There are a lot of things. And they go and drink beer because it has a pub inside. So most of the Australians drink beer and they give you the car. And every time I get into a car, I cannot reach the pedal because I'm short and majority of the Australians are quite tall. So I had to adjust the seat and then finish all the work and give it back. And the car is never suitable for them to come in because you can never adjust it back to the original position, right?
Okay.
And they got very upset and they told the owner that this is not okay. And after 2 days, they fired me. 2-3 days, they said, Thomas, we like your work. You're very sincere. I can see the commitment you have towards your job. But at the end of it, we cannot do anything for your height, right? So that is also a very interesting learning for me, that it is a genuine appreciation that you are not suitable for all the jobs. There are very valid reasons that you go for a job and after a few days you can get fired. I felt a little bit bad, but then I realized it's amazing learning that you cannot do everything and you should not, and there are genuine reasons that people will fire you from jobs. They're fully justified. I even think that I should not have been paid for the 2-3 days I worked there because I messed up the car for their customers. Right? During the time I was sitting at the cash counter, I used to study. So many customers who came to the shop will realize that I'm studying MBA in Melbourne Business School in Australia, and they realized I was doing it for money, right? So they used to give a lot of tip, right? And for like $10, $15, they'll give me $50. So, so people are quite nice, quite kind, appreciative of people who are struggling to pay for their education in their country. So a lot of very good experience, learnings during that time. I think the learnings trying to do 5 to 6 different part-time jobs in Melbourne Business School, the learnings was much better than all other learnings from any other jobs in my view.
So when did you move to consulting?
That was straight after my MBA, right?
Okay.
During my MBA, right from the beginning, I wanted to get into consulting, right? So I attempted many, Arthur D. Little, I was rejected twice. I went from the Melbourne Business School, there was a campus discussion, they rejected me from Melbourne Business School. Then I came to Singapore, again applied to Arthur D. Little, again I was rejected, right? I offered to work for 3 months for free for them to test me out, and only if they are convinced they will give me a job, and that is how I got into Arthur D. Little. Yeah.
So you joined in Singapore for the first time?
I joined in Singapore, right? And first 3 months I was without any compensation, right?
Okay.
It was a very interesting experience trying to get the job in Arthur D. Little. They told me that I'm extremely logical and intelligent, but my language skills are very, very poor, right? I speak very fast. I still have a very heavy Indian accent, and they told me, Thomas, we don't understand what you're saying, and you cannot be a good consultant. But my ratings on intelligence was 5 out of 5. You need to have 4 across 6, 7 parameters. I got 5 out of 5 on analytics, structured communication, and failed on anything to do with English and communication. So they rejected me. So I asked them a very simple question. You rated me very high on analytical skills and logical structuring, but you said you don't understand me. So it doesn't make any sense to me, right? So you understood me, right? You cannot claim that you did not understand me to rate me that I'm good in analytical skills. And they didn't know how to handle me. I said, okay, just try for next 3 months, right?
Yeah.
And for 3 months, my only intention was to speak well.
So where do you currently work as a consultant? Which city are you based out of?
I am now responsible for the whole Middle East and India operations, and the headquarters is in Dubai. So technically my office is Dubai, but lot of travel because I cover around 17, 18 countries between GCC, North Africa and South Asia, right? Before COVID, every year, there's a software that tracks the number of flights that you take. I used to take around 160 to 165 flights every year. So you're living in the airports and in the flights versus a location, right?
Yeah. As an international consultant working for a global organization, I'm sure you have traveled a lot. Could you please share some of those experiences?
Sure. Oh, yes. It is mandatory when you are working with an international consulting firm that you have to travel, and I really had the privilege. I think I would have visited at least 50 different cities working for Arthur D. Little. I had another advantage, which people may think it's a disadvantage. I have an Indian passport. By the way, I was offered a Singapore passport. I refused. I always wanted to have an Indian passport. But with Indian passport, you cannot stay in a country unless you have a work permit. And consultants, you don't get work permit in 50 different cities. You're supposed to come in for a project, and with Indian passport, every month you have to leave the country, right? So when I did a project in Croatia for 18 months, you have to come out 18 times. And I used to visit like Venice, Vienna, Belgium, all these cities 4, 5, 6 different times, right? And so, and as part of work, you always stay in a particular city and you spend a lot of time. So it is not just fly in, fly out visits. Right? I also had the privilege to work a lot in the Middle East, right? What is very, very important and the learnings that I have is that See, first of all, when you are going to various countries and you are working with clients and you're helping them in solving their problems, you have to really spend a lot of time with them, understand their culture, their behavior, religion, all of that is very important, right? Because you cannot give recommendations that and they cannot implement if it is against the religious values, for example, right? So you even need to understand what are the religious values, cultural values when you tell them you are supposed to do something in your particular job, right? Because when you're consulting. One thing that I really realized is that it is completely wrong to say that a particular behavior or a religion or a culture is wrong. You cannot say that. What I realized is, if you take any culture, any religion, and if you look at the fundamental philosophies behind a religion or a culture or a particular geography, it is reflecting the best way of life in that geography, in that circumstances at the time the religion came into existence. So our view about disliking something is fundamentally flawed because you don't understand the logic behind it. And let me say a few things which may sound a bit controversial. In Saudi Arabia, you are allowed to have 4 wives. Women were not allowed to drive in Saudi Arabia. Immediately you will say it is wrong. But do you know why it was implemented?
No.
It was implemented. I don't want to get into the details. I can definitely.
Yeah.
If you go and try to understand why people were allowed to have 4 wives, why women was not allowed to drive, or why some of the Hindus are practicing some kind of procedures, there is very, very valid reason behind it, right? So that is the best benefit that comes out of travel. You start appreciating everything that you see, and when something is contradicting your thinking, you will not feel negative about it. You should actually feel very, very positive, because you are getting to understand a fundamentally different way of thinking which adds to your quality of your knowledge, your quality, your intelligence. It is actually contributing, right? This is very contradictory thinking, because as human beings, when we see something that we don't agree, we feel very unhappy about it. That is wrong. You're actually very stupid. You actually have to think that, okay, that is very good, that is very right, it has a logic, let me try to understand that, by which you get a different perspective in life, right? And for that you have to really travel, because then only you get the variety of thinking, variety of culture, variety of religious behavior, and traveling really contributes and widens your thought process, your understanding and appreciation of many things that you completely disagree. You start appreciating that.
So, among all these assignments you have done in different regions, which part of the world do you think is the most exciting for you?
For consulting,
Yes.
the Middle East.
Middle East.
By far, right? Because wherever consulting or advice is more based on trust versus a transaction, it becomes more interesting, right? And I have to be quite careful, because people tend to trust you when they are not convinced of their capability, right? So let us take a country like Singapore or Germany, right? They have the capability to check whether you are giving good advice or not. So hence it is a transactional relationship. Thomas explained to me the strategy for DBS Bank, and I am capable of questioning your input whether it is good or bad, because I am intelligent, right? But in the Middle East, they sort of appreciate that we need to learn a lot. So it is much more a trust-based relationship, right? And in that environment, if you are able to give the trust to the client, they sincerely appreciate that, they get a lot more value, and you can add a lot more value to them. And that is where I really enjoy consulting, right? It is more trust-based, friendship-based relationship, even if on work, versus more towards a transactional relationship in developed economies like Singapore or Germany or US.